to City of Springfield, Illinois, Facebook Live. We appreciate you joining us. This is our 5th week of having these Facebook sessions as another way to engage the public with regards of what's happening with the coronavirus, specifically to Springfield, Illinois, and the challenges we all face together and how we're working through along the phase-in process with the Restore Illinois program, or the strategy put forward by Governor Pritzker. So we appreciate everybody's support. We're blessed with a medical district or a medical community that's second to none, in my opinion. But really, really comes down to each and every person doing their what they can to help prevent the spread. And we've done a great job. I think we're at 6% positive testing, which is really low. It's well below the metrics set up by the state. And that allows us to move forward in our region through phase 3. And today I have with me 2 aldermen. We're mixing it up a little bit. Alderman Donelan, who I'll introduce shortly, and then Alderman Hanauer. And we're focusing today on the business aspects of how that's impacted our community, especially with phase 3 as we move along in this pandemic. And so with that, we do have 2 business owners, Matt Noonan of, the Noonan family is well known in Springfield, as well as Mike Coffey's joining us with Saputo's and the family and the mainstays that we have. And that's what it's all about in Springfield, is it's a great family community and how we support one another. So it doesn't matter if you're in Springfield, Illinois, or any city throughout our country. How we get through this pandemic is together, and it really helps when you have the support of friends and families and one another, even if strangers, helping one another out in this difficult, challenging, unprecedented time. So with phase 3, what comes is new openings with regards to barbershops, retail spaces are opening up, as well as restaurants and bars to outdoor seating, which is a welcome relief, not only for the owners, but for individuals that would like to help support our local establishments with regards to that. So we're looking forward to phase 3, which will actually start this Friday, May 29th. So with regards to the City of Springfield, our part is trying to make sure the outdoor seating is thoughtfully done and a safe environment. And so our Office of Public Works under Director Nate Bottom have been feverishly working towards the parameters. For those of you that want to know what the parameters or the guidelines would be, you should go to either the city's website, which is springfield.il.us, and we do have a COVID page. But within that is the state of Illinois guidelines for various industries, which would include restaurants and bars. So when there's questions about how we need to open up, you should download the guidelines set forward by the state of Illinois. And they have precautionary measures that they've looked at, the CDC guidelines, and how not only you keep your workplace safe, but also be able to serve the public in a safe manner, and what the public should be doing to make sure they're following safe precautionary measures so you can enjoy yourself, get the services that you would like, and do so in a responsible manner. So with that, that will kick off this Friday, and we're looking forward to that as we move forward. But one of the challenges, I see it from the city's perspective, from the city as a whole. But of course, with the aldermen or alderwomen, what they have is an area to represent. And they're all unique in their own way, but also they have cross initiatives or cross items to address. And because, as we know, the coronavirus doesn't discriminate, so it impacts all of our wards in the same manner. But it'd be good to hear the different perspectives, especially today with regards to Ward 9 and Ward 10. In Ward 9, Jim Donelan, Alderman Donelan, I've known him for quite some time. Actually, I knew him originally from the chamber. I think is how we first met, through leadership in Springfield, and he was there. And then he's also served in the leadership capacity of the city as Mayor Davlin's deputy mayor, and helped in that relationship with government, but more recently elected as Ward 9 Alderman and serving that area well. So with that, I'd just throw it up to an introduction, Alderman Donelan, and anything you'd like to share, especially the Alderman's perspective with regards to how the coronavirus has not only challenged you personally, but also in the role of being an alderman, anything else you would like to share. And then from there, you can introduce the Ward 9 business owner and go in that direction.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Who would have thought, even as recently as 4 months ago, that we would be having this discussion, and we'll have been through what we have been through. I first of all want to thank the healthcare workers for all the work that they've done the last 3 months, as well as the police and fire, and who could forget the food service workers, because if they weren't doing their jobs and out there every day, trust me, it would have been a lot different these last few months. So I can't thank them enough for all they've done for this community. Mayor, when we talked about doing this, we were talking a little bit about, Ward 9 specifically, but for those of you who don't know, Ward 9 is essentially the northwestern part of the city. It goes all the way out to the airport, comes all the way back in over by SHG, and then goes all the way down West Washington, all the way to the edge of the city. It's an economically diverse ward, and we do have businesses sprinkled in some of the commercial corridors, and we have one of those with us today. I'll introduce them a little bit, but some of the concerns that have come up with this is really, I hate to state the obvious, but was really the biggest thing, I think, was the unknown. We didn't know what to do and how to do it, and there was a fear factor early on, and specifically, we're obviously not through it, only getting ready to enter phase 3. But, the health of our families, the health of the public, that was really one of the first concerns that came up when I was presented with this personally. And I'm sure a lot of you experienced the same thing. And then, you start asking questions about, what does this mean to the economy? What does this mean to the businesses? And what services do we even have the ability to obtain as residents? And all those kind of things were swirling around. Which leads, I think, into a problem that we're going to be discussing at City Council here next month is, what's the impact on city budget? The city of Springfield relies heavily on sales tax dollars to do the essential city services. And since businesses have been closed, we know there's some negativity coming, and we're going to figure it out, and we're going to figure it out together. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention, because they just released this information, the state of Illinois, the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity just put out some guidelines for businesses, and have an excellent webpage that has a guide for 10 different sectors, as well as a toolkit for each one of those sectors. Has everything from written checklists to posters that people can hang up and help businesses through this process. But and speaking of that, Mayor, I want to mention that I do have with me today, and I really appreciate Matt Noonan IV from Noonan True Value for being here today. Mr. Noonan has a unique perspective, I think, to offer to the public when we get to the question and answer. He actually owns and operates on Bruns Lane, Noonan's True Value Hardware, but he also has the Rental Center that's in Ward 10 on the southwest side. And he'll talk, I'm sure, a little bit about being able to have one open, and we all know that been going to the hardware stores, how important that's been, but also a business that's been negatively impacted because they weren't, for example, he had mentioned to me specifically about their party planning part, which is a significant portion of the rental company. So again, Matt, thanks for being here today, and Mayor, thanks for having me. I look forward to the questions and answer. Mr. Noonan, you're up.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor Linkfelder. Thank you, Alderman Donelan, Alderman Hanauer. When this first came about, a couple months back now, I remember just feeling sick to my stomach. Our business has been open for 73 years now on North Grand, and then we added our Bruns Lane store, which is in your area there, and then we added about 12 years ago, our Grand Rental. So at first I didn't know, are we essential? Are we not essential? Found out rather quickly that the hardware stores were essential. Wasn't sure about the party rental industry or the tool rental industry. But all in all, our business on the hardware side is, everybody knows that everybody's been home, so they're repainting bedrooms or kitchens or working on their yards. So that's been pretty steady. We've been very fortunate in that way. The whole industry nationwide has been. However, the tool industry has been pretty steady as well, the tool rental. However, the party rental industry obviously has been pretty much shut down, except for now with restaurants and bars being able to have tents outside. that has helped us tremendously. So it's been a rocky road, but again, we've been very fortunate as well. So, we're just going, day to day on it and see where it ends up.
Well, thank you very much. One of the challenges, I think, I'll talk to Alderman Donelan, and then Matt, if you could jump in. And there's probably a question for Mike and Ralph, Alderman Hanauer, to answer later. But with regards to the ward itself, you look at businesses that have been closed up, things of that nature. And one of the things, of course, our employees get displaced. And how challenging has it been with regards to, your neighbors, with regards to Alderman Donelan, but also on the business aspect of side, is it been difficult if people have been displaced, finding help, retraining individuals and moving that direction as far as from a business perspective. So, Alderman Donelan, if you'd like to, with the personal experience that you've had with other constituents with regards to that, if you'd shed some light on that, I think that'd be helpful.
Sure. We have it's no secret that along the Jefferson corridor in particular, there's some commercial businesses. One of those happens to be Westwood's Lodge. They were closed for a while and ultimately started doing carry out and talking to the owner, Mick Wanless, about, the impacts and its negative impacts. And I have also in my ward have the owner of the corner pub, Mr. Timoney, and he on his birthday he laid off his entire staff, and those are real life issues, and those aren't easy things to do, especially when you have these personal relationships. And my heart goes out for those individuals that are out there that have been unemployed, because they have to provide for their families. And again, like I said earlier, there's this fear that of not knowing what to expect. I think that, due to the phases that have been put out there, as far as, what is allowed and when and so forth, I think that at least helps people plan. But, even though the bars and restaurants are able to be open in a different manner, and Mayor, I appreciate all the work that you and your staff have done to try to make this as seamless as possible. So we'll see how it goes. I'm sure there'll be bumps, but we'll work through those and changing some of the rules so that businesses can be open. But businesses have set cost, and if they're at 20% or 50%, pick a number of their capacity, they still have the same cost, and that is a long-term concern, and something that I'm hoping that the federal government will come through with some assistance, not only for more assistance for the businesses, but for state and local governments, because I think we're going to find in a few weeks that we need it at the municipal level as well. Mr. Noonan, I don't know if you have anything to add as far as what the mayor asked, but again, I can't thank you enough for being here, and you again bring this unique perspective where you've been impacted, but you've also been open fully at one of your establishments. But you also got to deal with ways to keep your employees and the customers safe, and maybe that's something that we should talk a little bit about, because it's important.
Yeah. So a couple things on that. Obviously we're wearing masks and sanitizing the computers, the desks, the point of sale, the carts, continuously going, and sanitizing that every few hours. But the issue we're having right now is we did have to shorten our hours a little bit, like most people did. Hopefully we'll be back to normal hours in a couple of weeks. But we have, there's at our North Grand location, there's probably 7 people that either have a compromised immune system or say they're college students that their parents don't want them to work. So that's been challenging because again, everybody, and again, I can't say enough about our staff. I mean, they've been doing a great job. Some work 6.5 days a week, just keeping everything going. It has been challenging in that aspect as well. But again, we've been very blessed to have the support of the community. I mean, we have a lot of new customers coming in, customers we haven't seen for a while, but we've been very blessed in terms of that, in terms of the hardware side of it.
Well, thanks, Matt, for that perspective. Now I'll go to Ward 10, and Alderman Hanauer and I, we go way back actually in our Griffin High School days. I still call it Griffin, even though it's SHG, but he's been, I've known him practically all my life, Again, actually, I knew his grandfather when I worked at, for those of you that remember the Illini Sporting Goods, I worked there with his grandfather back in the day. So great family roots, and we appreciate the job he's done. He brings a unique perspective from actually operating within the state of Illinois and that dynamic, and brought that to the table when he became Alderman of Ward 10. So we appreciate his service and what he's done and bringing new ideas to city government. And he'll introduce Mike Coffey. So if you could speak to the challenges you faced in Ward 10 and with regards to the business perspective as well, from the personal and professional life, that'd be great.
Thank you. My name's Ralph Hanauer. I'm the Alderman in Ward 10, which is from basically Old Jacksonville down to Piper Glen, and it's west from, for all practical purposes, Veterans Parkway West. So I got the west side. The biggest, I've been affected personally because my wife's a hairstylist. She owns her own business, and she's actually been out since May 18th. Oddly enough, she just received her first the POE or whatever it is.
PPP.
Well, we got a PPP,
Okay.
but she also got the unemployment, but she didn't receive the unemployment until just 2 days ago, or yesterday, I think it was. I don't even know what day it is. So, so I've seen it from that perspective, and the frustration that she's had, and things we've had to deal with, and I've talked to businessmen that have had to deal with small business administration and the unemployment administration, just trying to navigate those waters, and that's kind of tough at times. Probably unfortunately, I know we're going to lose some businesses out here. I know one has already called it quits. I don't know whether it's because of what happened prior to, or probably helped lead up to it, but this was the nail in the coffin. And so, I don't want to see any businesses close now. One of the biggest complaints I've gotten is, and the frustrations is, unfortunately, when they've allowed the big box stores to stay open, you can go into a big box store where there's 400 people, and you can shop and you can do all you want. And Mayor, in your credit, you made sure everybody, masks were required, or were tried to be required. But then you have businesses say, well, they can go to Walmart and buy clothes, but I've got a boutique. I can't buy. It's smaller, and I can't be open. And that's a kind of frustration. Or restaurants, well, you can go to a big box store, but you can't go to a restaurant, and there's less people in a restaurant than there is in the big box store. So that's where I got a lot of the frustration from the businesses, and then as things have progressed, I think we started seeing a lot of frustration about the recovery plan, that it wasn't aggressive enough. And at first there was a concern that they were going to leave the restaurants out, and a lot of them wouldn't survive. And I'm going to let Mike talk about the effects of it on his restaurant, but that's the biggest things that I've seen, and a lot of frustration. I think that the biggest thing I've seen is frustration that people they want to see things move faster. And with that, I'm going to introduce Mike Coffey. Is the owner, and his family's owned Saputo's forever, and he opened up Papa Frank's out here on the west side, and I think that's where Mike spends most of his time, because he likes the west side better than downtown anyway. So
it's the Alderman out here that just draws me out.
That's right.
No, well, thanks for having me. I mean, as everybody talked about, this is devastating. I mean, it's devastating. You're talking about, we've got a well-established business that's been in business since 1948. I mean, you're talking about a 90% reduction. And to be honest with you, Mayor, I'm talking about Saputo's. Out west, we've weathered it a little bit better, just because of our proximity and the carryout stuff. But, when we're looking at every convention is canceled up until September. We don't know if they're going to start to cancel. I mean, it's going to be devastating for the downtown. I think the best thing we do, the quicker we can open things up, the better off we're going to be. I know a lot of people and a lot of my friends are calling me, oh my God, we're so excited. This outdoor dining is going to be unbelievable. Well, it is, unless, it rains every day like it does, and then it'll be too hot.
Right.
And then you get into the problem where you're going to get the logistics of opening up outside. And so you've got to hire more people that really aren't going to make you more money. You're going to make less money as it is. It's going to drive your costs up. And then you have to start facing the fact that some of the people that are unemployed don't want to come back to work because they'll make less money because there isn't the business there to warrant coming back. And I'm going through, for Friday night, I'm going to be busy Friday night out here at Papa Frank's. There's no question about it. The question is, I'm trying to get the staffing so that I can adequately service the customers. And it's a concern. I had talked to Matt Noonan about getting tents and stuff. I decided not to get a tent, that I had enough outdoor seating out here. But now down at Saputo's, I don't know if we're going to open up or have any seating out there, because it's not, we don't think we can financially, open up the outside, bring back the required number of employees and make it financially work. So I know a lot of people that have been to Florida, and that's what's frustrating. You've got other states. I mean, Florida is open. I mean, it's open. Restaurants are packed and everything like that. So I don't know. The best thing we can do, is open up, because once you even open up with this unemployment, there's going to be a big tax on businesses. So a business like ours, which has the lowest unemployment compensation rate you can have, well, after all these unemployment compensation claims, it's going to go up 5%. And so that's going to be a tax into the next 3 years, because you can't get that to go off for 3 years after they move it up. So you're talking significant taxing just once you things get back to normal, that you can never recover. And, you're talking, it's going to be a big hit, not only while you've been closed, but when you come back to work, there's going to be additional fees. I mean, just costs of goods to restaurants have risen, the price of meat and just different products that are harder to get. Just getting hand sanitizer at Cisco, Foods, the biggest one. I've been trying to get enough hand sanitizer for, a month now. So, I mean, there's just a lot of issues that are not going to be fixed by outdoor dining. And then, not to mention, is it fair? I'm fortunate enough to have a patio that I can do the outdoor dining. Saputo's is not. I think the quicker we open up, and I think people have got to have their own personal responsibility. If you're really concerned and you're someone that's more susceptible, then you should stay at home. I think people should be allowed to make their own choices of whether or not they go out. We need to open up for the city of Springfield, for the individual businesses, because this going to and the other concerning part is most other states are going 2 weeks at a time and making the decision. State of Illinois is going to go a month at a time. So are they saying we're really not opening till July? I think if we do that, you're going to see, right now, I think you're going to see 25% of businesses go under, the restaurant businesses go under. You go to July, you're going to see significantly more than that. And I think it's very dangerous. And I guess, you have to weigh the risks, the health risk to the financial risk. But I think the city, I say, me personally, I think the city, the state is in very serious financial trouble if we don't get things opened up.
That's a lot of great points there, and some we'll cover a little bit later. But I know one of the questions we've had with regards to restaurants, we're glad they're opening up. They're able to do grab and go. I know Saputo's done grab and go and others, but that's a challenge. I mean, like you said, you have these overhead costs associated with that, with the grab and go. And the one question, if you could talk briefly about the logistics, and Alderman Hanauer, you might be able to weigh in on this, but the logistics, because now what we're looking at is outdoor seating. Not everybody has a parking lot they could adjust. And of course, that's one aspect. You take up a portion of it, but you have to provide the parking. So Public Works will go out and take a look at how you're setting that up. And I think you have an extension of your restaurant at Papa Frank's, a patio area, but some don't have that. But some of the logistics of just setting up a parking lot and the personnel that it requires, because now you're looking at tables and everything else that you brought up. That'd be just from that perspective, I think that'd be helpful. That's one of the questions that did come in for
Well-
those that don't have outdoor seating, or how do you reshape how you're doing business in this pandemic? You know, how are you changing that up?
Well, and Mayor, real quick, I've heard of landlords that are not, they're not allowing their restaurants in their strip malls or whatever, that they're concerned about letting restaurants have outdoor seating. So, you know, liability issues, what have you. So is it, you know, like Mike said, is it fair to those restaurants that you know, it happens? The good news is it's great for Matt. It helps Matt's business because everybody's going and getting tables, chairs, fencing, whatever. So in one way, we've helped one business, but we've kind of affected some others, you know. But Mike, I'll let you answer.
Well, I mean, logistically, you're gonna have to have more. You're gonna have to have runners, and then one of the things I'm concerned about, like at Papa Frank's, is you've got IHOP and other restaurants, Mimosa and all that. Well, you've got people whipping around those parking lots. I mean, it's only going to take one person to get hit, or you know, having people hang out in parking lots. It's just not a great idea. Now, I know a lot of people want to do it, and you know, but I mean, it is a risk when you're doing that. I've chosen not to take the risk out here. You know, downtown, I mean, I hate to, you know, get on that, but you know, there's a homeless issue downtown. So we talked about Matt about putting tents on the sidewalk, and then, you know, then are we going to have to deal with the homeless trying to stay under the tents, and are we going to have to remove them on a day-to-day basis? So, I mean, but the biggest thing is you're going to have to hire more help that's not going to make as much money as they were making when they were working, and you're not going to be making as much money. So just the numbers in a lot of cases don't work for a lot of people.
Yeah, on that, with regards to the one aspect Public Works is looking at, or the recommendations, do Jersey barriers. You've probably seen them, the concrete barriers,
Right.
or like in construction site, you'd have barrels. So that is a great concern with regards to parking lots that can be set up. But that's why anybody has questions on that, they should call our building and zoning, which would be 789-2171. That's 789-2171. And they can answer your questions associated with that. But you're right, that is a logistical kind of an added expense. It's an added issue that you kind of have to address. And how do you make sure you have a safe atmosphere for your, you know, the patrons moving in that direction? So that's one of those challenges that you have to move forward. And this would be for any of you, I guess, if you want to touch on this, is the coronavirus. What we have to do is start looking towards the future. You've all adapted your businesses. We've adapted how we do city government. That's why we're doing this Zoom, Facebook Live. How do you foresee moving forward? Because what you want to do is make sure that the changes you make today help build towards your future. So you want to kind of invest in what you're doing. So if you'd like to speak to how you're looking at your own operations and kind of looking out a year or two, what's the dynamic that you're trying to put in place that you might not have had prior to March when all of this came to being? So Matt or Mike, whoever wants to go first, then the Alderman can weigh in as well with regards to looking to the future and any changes you'll be making within your own particular business with providing services to others.
Well, I tell you one thing, Mayor, that we've done is, I mean, I don't know if our stores have been cleaner than what they are now. Because again, we just want to make sure everybody's safe when they're coming in, whether they're touching the carts or you know, checking out at the register. I mean, we just have been sanitizing like mad. But that's one thing we've been doing. We're also looking at more of an outdoor space for you know, for our customers. In other words, we have plants outside right now, but we're talking about putting other items outside so we can kind of spread people out more. Same thing with our rental. Our grand rental on Koki Mill, we've actually, we used to, you know, we kind of guide the customer to our counter right now, which we may implement more long-term instead of just, you know, just going all over the showroom, just kind of in a certain area to try to keep people safe. That's what we're doing. And like I said, obviously, you know, this is going to continue on for a few more years down the road, in my opinion.
So Mike, from the and Mike actually wears a couple hats. One, he knows a lot about tourism because he's the chair of the SMEA board, Convention Center, Bank of Springfield Center. So any perspective you'd like to share as we move towards these upcoming months, but also these upcoming years, and really reshaping how we do things?
Well, one of the things we start doing on these large carryout orders is we're individually, I'm putting everything in a pizza box. So if everybody gets their own box food, it's boxed up separately, because for doing it for a lot of healthcare workers and stuff like that, it just seems safer. The curbside service, I seem to think people will like that going forward, and we may keep that going forward. So you're going to have less people in and out. But I mean, we've always been big on cleaning and sanitizing and stuff like that. We'll continue to do that. I just, my big hope is that sooner rather than later, we find some sort of a cure or whatever for coronavirus, we can go back to the way things were, because this is a tough way to live. I mean, just, people don't like wearing masks. They're hot. They're very uncomfortable. That's good. It's just no way to live. So my hope is that we get things opened up.
Mm-hmm. And then Alderman Donelan?
Yeah, Mayor, if I can, I do have, as far as looking forward, something I think it's important is whether it's a second wave or this thing drags out into the winter months, we need to be thinking collectively about how to put forward ideas that allow businesses such as Papa Frank's and Saputo's and many Westwoods in my ward and many others that can operate in the wintertime, whether it's, operating in tents with sides. I don't know. Those kind of things need to be at least looked at. We can't forget about that. I know we're concentrating right now on just opening today, but one of the questions that I've gotten from some of the businesses in town, Mayor, I think you can help with is that, we have, and I'm using my words, we have cafe licenses and outdoor sales of alcohol you have to have a certain license. And will any business or bar that has a liquor license be allowed to sell alcohol and serve alcohol out in the parking lots? That's a question that comes up. I think we should probably clarify today.
Yeah, with the cafe atmosphere, it's for consumption on site. It's not for packaged liquor or anything of that nature. So I had a conversation with Corporation Counsel, and I didn't think I'd have to address another executive order, but the executive order is to make sure that everybody has the authority to operate with the current guidelines of city code. So that'd be one of them. Instead of certain liquor licenses allow for that type of consumption, others don't. So we may have to have an executive order that just says everybody has the authority to do it this way with regards to sale of alcohol in those atmosphere or the outdoor seating capacity. We look at the lake clubs, things of that nature, the restaurants and the bars moving in that direction. But the real important part of that is make sure that people understand what we're trying to do is open up as much as possible, allow that opportunity, but there should be seating or staying at a table. It's not a congregating area where you're mingling. If you go into like St. Patrick's Day, when you go out to the bars, you're mingling quite a bit. In this situation where we're doing the slow open, it's for, you're sitting there with your, I think it's groups of 6 right now. And then once we've gone through a certain period, I agree with Mike Coffey, should be every 14 days assessing it. Can we open it up that much more? And I think as we move along, that will be the case. So that's the one aspect of that. So Alderman Hanauer, anything you'd like to, Alderman Hanauer, he's a tech guru, with regards to technology. Yeah. That's what he did with the state. So anything you see with regards to the future and how we move forward in these progressive steps to serve others?
Well, I think that number one, our job as elected officials is to protect the public. I'm fully aware of that, but I'm kind of torn here because, we can slow this down, go on the same track and where we're thinking we're protecting the public. And as of today, we've got the fewest hospitalizations of COVID patients around. Bad thing is we're also laying off a lot of people at the hospitals. But there's slowing the businesses opening also creates another problem where we're going to be forced to lay off people in the city. And it's not just going to be able to be non-police, non-fire. Police and fire are going to have to be a part of it. And how do you say, so where, you know, you're going to break down the protection of people one way or another, either opening business faster where they have a choice whether they go out or not. You know, Matt and Mike both know that when they open full time, there's no guarantee people are going to show up. I mean, you know, you suspect they will, and showing, you know, based on what some of the other states have done, it looks good. But I agree with what Mike said earlier. Let the people have a choice. We're not going to have a choice if we don't open these businesses. Every day we don't open could be another police officer that has to be laid off, or a fireman, and that doesn't protect the public either. And we got to look at it from a long-term perspective. Do you open up the businesses quicker and save the long-term protection of the citizens, or do you slow it down and you cost it in the other side? And I want to see the businesses open faster. I'm concerned about schools not opening. My son goes to parochial school, and quite frankly, if the parochial schools if they go, I'm very concerned about their being able to survive another fall without interaction in school. And then how do you get people to work when they have to homeschool their kids? You can't do both.
Yeah, we'll talk about the the opening, because that's a philosophical item. The one I would like to talk about first real quickly, especially for Matt and Mike, is the capacity. If you could share with us, I know Mike shared with us on the restaurant side of things, how the phase-in approach looks like for the restaurant specifically is going from 0 to 50% in indoor seating in July. I always thought that it'd be better to go to a 30% capacity in June for indoor seating. And then you could really see if there's any additional spread of the virus. And if not, then you could double it in July. So you're going from 30 and then to 60. It's a more measured approach as to going from 0 to 50%. The other aspect, of course, from your side of things, Mike, is with regards to the ability, the cost factor of doing that and how that would work. And then I'd like to hear Matt weigh in on the capacity that they're operating at right now. And then we'll approach what Alderman Hanauer brought up with regards to opening up in general. People, you know, only go out if they feel like it, things of that nature. So Mike, if you talk about the capacity aspect real quick, both of you, that'd be helpful.
Well, if you're asking me, you know, we have to wait till July for 50%, or in June we can get 30%. I mean, obviously, the quicker we can get more people in, the better off it is. I think once I think everybody with this outdoor seating, you know, you get to July, you're going to want to have significant indoor seating because it gets hot again. You know, this is not a great weather city or town or state or whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, Mayor, you know, anything we can do to get open, that's what we've got to do. We've got the medical capabilities here in Springfield. Like you said, we've got a great medical district, great medical facilities. And when this whole thing started, the reason we were doing this is we didn't want to overwhelm the medical system. When we've now not overwhelmed the medical system, you know, we're hurting the medical system because they don't have enough patients. From what I saw, what I've seen from the pictures in Florida, I mean, it's carte blanche. Everything's open. People are not wearing masks. I think Springfield, Illinois, you know, it's where we're located. The number of cases we've had, I think, you know, the sooner you let people in, the better. And we need it. I mean, I'm seriously worried about the devastation of the downtown. I mean, without tourism, you let this go. I wasn't that worried about this when I thought it was going to be over, you know, June 1. I'm like, no problem. Now you start going to July 1. It's very, and if we don't get this opened up, I mean, there's going to be, you know, then there's going to be the people that can stay in business that just decide it's not worth staying in business. So, you know, anything you can do, if you're saying we can get 30% and that's before July, well, that's great. The sooner we open things up, the better. Obviously, I think I want 100%. If you want to know what will.
Right. Matt, anything you'd like to share on your capacity that you're operating at right now, or?
Yeah, our capacity now is, like I said, it's usually pretty high this time of year, and it obviously is right now because, again, the time of year and everybody's at home. However, most people are keeping their distance, or at least the majority of them are trying to keep their distance. the 6 feet. We're also marking our point of sales out, and people are doing a really good job of keeping their distance. But in terms of our capacity, again, with this time of year and with people being home, the capacity it's been up there fairly decent. So again, very, very blessed. So we're just everybody's using common sense for the most part.
Yeah, I think the Alderman, he brought up the tough question is, because I've heard that when people are being interviewed, whether it's in Missouri or Florida, they say, well, don't come out if you don't want to get infected. And it's, if only it was that easy, because the difficulty in that is someone can go out. My wife reminds me of this. She says, every time you go to work, you're opening up that opportunity to bring the infection back home because it's invisible. And that's the challenge. That's the struggle. And, I'm not a history buff. My father always said, remember your history. And what they point to is the Spanish flu. And that's, it was kind of the same dynamic. It started in March, then you went to the summer, they wore the mask and everything of that nature. And then everything was settled down. And then it, like a firestorm in the winter. I think that's what we want to be cautious of. I think at that point in time, it's like 650,000 deaths in Illinois. And it's just staggering. But I think precautionary measures, that's what the social distancing will do. So that's why it's helpful to have responsible business owners like yourself. You're being compliant, which we really appreciate. And I'd like everybody to kind of weigh in, because the masks are an important factor, because it's to protect others from yourself. So when I go out and I'm wearing a mask, I'm cognizant of not infecting Alderman Donelan or Hanauer or anybody else. And then you're going in that direction where others think it's a freedom of speech. I'm not going to wear it. Well, it's more to make sure you don't spread the virus if you are asymptomatic. And the social distancing is a must until we do get a vaccine, because there's no vaccination that will cure it. The proven method is social distancing. So if you'd each like to weigh in real quick on your perspective, there's no right or wrong answer to it. But I think it's helpful for the general public to understand the different dynamics of what we're trying to do is keep the public safe, stop the spread, and then also have the environment where we could support one another from the business aspect, because you have to be able to survive in that method. So it's almost, how do we best live within the coronavirus environment and move forward in that direction to support one another?
Yeah, Mayor,
Alderman Donelan, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. As you're describing, it's a delicate balance. It truly is. And I can't thank everybody enough that is and has been complying with what has been recommended from the Illinois Department of Public Health and the CDC. Those things obviously have worked. I mean, it's not gone. We know that, and we can't pretend like it is. But it is a delicate balance. How do we function? How do we get our economy going? How do we stay healthy? And a mask seems like a simple request. My family, we kind of went into the business of just making masks, and we've given some away to friends, given some away to groups, and my kids get the credit for that because they've been the driving force. But it is important, and people I think are going to only benefit from social distancing, from wearing masks, from doing their part. Little things can make a difference. I'm stating the obvious, but it is so critical to this whole process from everything I've read. You're right. There's some examples in 1908 when the Spanish flu hit that weren't cities that didn't comply and didn't take precautions, and that problem spread rapidly. Somebody alluded on this call that different states are doing different things. It'd be nice if we could have a little bit more of uniformity, at least in our adjacent states. But it's again a delicate balance. And some of these states that have, quote, just flipped the switch and opened up, which I'm not in favor of just flipping the switch and opening up. I think a gradual approach makes sense. But there's got to be common sense ideas put forward. Those states that have opened up, we're going to get to see the numbers and see, if it's bad or good. And I don't wish anybody any ill, but it does concern me.
Well, Mayor,
Yep.
Thank you. I guess my concern is okay. We have, what if there is no vaccine that comes out? We have a flu shot and it doesn't stop all the flu. We have the what ifs, and I guess my concern is, we can play what if all day long, but we do know that the longer it takes for us to get the businesses up and running, the worse it's going to be for budgets, and we are going to have to lay off, the first responders. We're going to have to. And how is that? And again, this is why you sit in the big chair, obviously. And I just am. I'm concerned that I realize history repeats itself, but we've got flu. Nobody seems to worry about the flu. This is a little bit more aggressive than the flu. I understand that, but we have got to look at this from the standpoint of, we can what if all day long. But at some point in time, we got to get the businesses operational, not only for them, but for the city as well. And I will tell you that I wear a mask and I do all that when I'm out. I don't like it wearing glasses and a mask. You walk around with fog glasses all the time. You know that. But and I appreciate people that follow the guidelines. But at some point in time, do we want to be like China, where everybody walks around in a mask all the time? I don't think that's what we want to be. And at some point, we've got to make a decision when people do have their own personal responsibility on this. So that's just my thoughts.
Mayor, if I can, just to drive home the point, anybody that doesn't have a mask, there's some excellent videos on YouTube. Like I said earlier, my kids, they learn how to make them, and we've been giving every one of them away, or having a few for our family as well. But it's something that you could do. Maybe your neighbors don't have the ability to get them. There's been some tremendous volunteer efforts where you can donate masks. I know HS has coordinated some of that, and it's helped. I mean, I think the data is there that proves that they do help. And there's some things that you can do yourselves if you don't have the means or ability, or you can't find masks, like some of the folks we know have donated them, and that only helps the community. So YouTube's a wonderful thing at times.
Yep, no doubt. Mike, would you like to share anything on that topic with regards to individuals that come out, or are there any precautionary measures, I guess, if someone comes in that from the restaurant perspective that you're looking at? Or
well, I mean, here one of the problems we got is 67% of the public doesn't know anybody that has coronavirus, and so I mean, you've got a lot of people that just don't believe it and think it's a fake and all that. And I am concerned about that from the standpoint of you've seen on TV where people are starting to break out in fights, and I mean, I had somebody just the other day, they made a reservation for 11, and for Saturday I said you can only have 6. She says, okay, give me a 6 and 5 and pull them together. I go, you can't do it, so right. You're gonna get in, and then that's a problem for a business owner, because now you're gonna be in a point where you're getting in fight with the customers, and I mean it's just not that easy, because I think we live in a community where the majority of people really don't believe in all of the think it's overkill and that it's over and that it's done. I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I don't claim to know. But those are some of the issues you've got to deal with. I just had another one. Okay, we want 10. Well, you can't have 10. Well, we want 2 5s. We want them together and just so that's going to be some of the issues that you've got. Like I said, at the end of the day, the government can only do so much, and I think everybody from the president down to you, the mayor, everybody's doing the best job they can, because this is a crisis that no one knows anything about. No one really knows how to handle it. No one knows who's right. The people that say that it's overblown could be right. The people that say we're not doing enough could be right. And I think we all at least have to stick together and try and work together, because it's a difficult situation.
Yeah, I think that hits the nail on the head, especially with the, when you're talking about table sizes, we have a large family and we've had to keep distant from that regards, but you're right, as far as, you're here to serve the customer, and, and that really puts a hamper on your ability to do so. So that's really a significant challenge. And then others will do it and put them at jeopardy, or potentially. And so that's a struggle.
Yeah, and I mean, some people are saying, well, we've got 7 in our family, we live together, why can't we say, and I don't have a good answer, and but then as soon as you start that, then everybody's going to say, well, we're all related too. So and that's why the sooner we open up and.
Mayor, if you don't mind, I've got a question that was brought to my attention. Somebody said, okay, if I have 6 tables or 10 tables of 6, and I have a group that wants to come in. I usually close at 9 o'clock, but they want to have their own, 60 people come. Is that legal or is it not? And I said, well, as long as you keep 6 to a table and 10, what, I guess that's one of the frustrating things is we get asked a lot of questions that we simply can't answer. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I think, well, you're right. I mean, it fits the parameters. I think that's what everybody wants is an A and a B answer, and there's not really an A and a B answer. You have to be somewhat flexible, and common sense has to prevail. I think what's hampered us is consistency, and, how do you move along? Because everybody will use one or the other. For instance, like you brought up about the stores, why can't a clothing store be open when Walmart and you can shop in there? So I think that's what we've presented to the governor's office time and time again is, here's the issues we're hearing, the inconsistencies, and we need to start making it consistent. Because if you can do that, then people will be more accepting of what's happening. But when there's these inconsistencies, that's where it gets to be more of a struggle or more doubt comes into play. But Matt, I don't know if there's anything else you would like to add to that perspective with regards to, just the challenge in general public perception.
Well, as a business owner, and Mike can attest to this, the last thing we want to hear is, layoffs or businesses going out of business. I think people just need to use common sense, stay their distance. If you're going out in public, use a mask for the time being. But we need to get through this quicker than sooner than later, I guess. So, because again, if you have people getting laid off, that's less time to go into a restaurant or to our stores or renting equipment. So we just need to use common sense and keep our distance.
Yeah, that's really the sign of it all. Be cognizant of one another. So I really like to thank you, Matt, for joining us. Mike Coffey, as well as Alderman Donelan and Alderman Hanauer for the Facebook Live. If you still have questions, you can email them to feedback@springfield.il.us. Our next one will be next Wednesday. We'll have 2 additional aldermen joining us. We still have to select which ones with regards to that. But with regards to the businesses, we like to thank the Noonan family, the Coffey family, and all of those that really are the backbone of our economy, and all economies throughout the country are the small businesses. And, we appreciate all you've done. You don't only have your business, but you're supportive of our community. So we really appreciate that. Before I wrap it up, any final words any of you would like to say?
Well, Mayor, I'd just like to say, thank you for having us, but also I'd like to thank, the people of Springfield, because we have been very, very fortunate that we know so many people that have been loyal customers to Saputo's for years. And while they're going through this, they've tipped the employees extra, double, just, to make sure that they make it through this. So one thing I will say, Springfield's got a lot of great people, a lot of great families. I'd start naming different businesses that are doing well and have gone out of their way to support, restaurants, businesses that are having hardships. But I don't want to forget somebody. But so thank you to all the great Springfield businesses that kind of shop local and help out all the local businesses, because we've got a ton of them. So thank you all.
Well, thanks.
And
Matt, you'd like to say it? Go ahead, Matt, and then we'll go Alderman Donelan and Hanauer.
Yeah, Mayor, thank you for having us again. I appreciate it. One thing that that our employees have been expressing throughout these past couple months is how polite people have been. How, in terms of our customers, when they're walking in the door, they've been extremely polite, extremely nice, courteous. In some ways, bring a lot of people together. And then I also like to thank our staff too, because again, those guys and gals have been going nonstop since this thing started a few months ago. So I just, again, kind of like what Mike said, just that we really appreciate the customers coming in and and being so courteous throughout this time. You know, if we couldn't get to them right away, they were rather patient. And again, morale's been up, I think, all around. So thanks again for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Donelan?
Yeah, Mayor, thanks. Mayor, thanks again for coordinating this. I think this is an interesting format. Again, who would have thought we would have had to have done something like this even 4 months ago? I, again, just want to thank the healthcare workers, police and fire, frontline individuals that are out there every day, the food service workers. We couldn't have done it without them. I agree with Mr. Coffey's comments. Springfield's strong, and we'll get through this, but we just got to use some common sense. And I encourage everyone, if you can, try to buy some food out at our restaurants that are offering that, and whether it's carry out or when we can do the sitting outside. I think it's important to help the locals as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Hanauer?
Thank you, Mayor. I too want to thank all the essential workers that have been at work, including the city workers that have been working extremely hard. We've got a great group downtown, and they've worked hard these last 6-8 weeks now, 10 weeks, I don't even know. While a lot of them have had to stay home and work from home, which has brought challenges. From an old IT perspective, one thing that we've seen is it is important to have good internet capabilities and things like that. So forums like this is great. I think it's an added perspective that we didn't have in February, that we didn't think about. So that's a benefit of coming out of this. So thanks again for coordinating this, and that's been very enjoyable.
Well, thanks for all of you for participating. We really appreciate it. We appreciate your perspective. Thank you, Alderman Hanauer, piggybacking on that. We are trying to reshape government to lessen the impact with regards to not hopefully experiencing layoffs. How do we work more efficiently and effectively? And that's the same with our businesses. How do we reshape how we're doing things more effectively to serve each person? So really a challenge for all of us since this has started. The focus for myself, the challenge has been to our employees and directors and all of us is how do we make, how do we make today better than yesterday and tomorrow better than today? And one way we can do that is being cognizant of each other and keeping the 6-foot social distance, wearing the mask when you're in close proximity, covering your nose and face as far as the mouth. But most importantly, support our local businesses because they're our neighbors. They're the ones that really keep things going. And we'd appreciate everybody doing that, supporting the brick and mortar as much as possible and one another. So we thank you for all you've done, and we thank you what you'll continue to do to help our community, and we appreciate that. So our next Facebook Live will be next Wednesday at noon. And in the meantime, I hope you stay healthy and stay safe. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.